Alfred the Great, warrior, reformer, savior of England. To history, he is a legend, a king who stood unbroken against the Viking tide. But behind the crown was a man tormented by an unrelenting horror, a disease that ate away at his insides until his guts quite literally rotted. This is the gruesome reality of Alfred the Great. Alfred was born in 849 AD in the quiet yet dangerous kingdom of Wessex. From the very start, his life seemed touched by destiny. The youngest son of King Ethelwulf, Alfred wasn't expected to rule. And yet, fate had other plans. As he grew, so did the Viking threat. The Norsemen had turned the English coast into a hunting ground, burning towns, slaughtering families, seizing land. Alfred learned early that survival required both the sword and the mind. But there was another battle, one far from the public eye. Even as a young man, Alfred carried within him an invisible enemy, an illness that would haunt every victory, poison every celebration, and follow him to the grave. Our knowledge of Alfred's condition comes largely from Asser, a Welsh monk who served as his friend and biographer. Asser describes a mysterious ailment that struck Alfred in his youth, one that caused excruciating internal pain. In his writings, Asser recounts that Alfred once prayed for God to protect him from the temptations of the flesh. According to the monk, God answered, granting Alfred a sickness that kept such temptations at bay. At first, it came in the form of hemorrhoids, or piles as they were called. Painful, humiliating, but not fatal. For a time, these hemorrhoids were cured, perhaps miraculously. But on the very night of his wedding, the true curse arrived. An illness unlike anything he had known before. It did not fade. It did not relent. And it would remain with him for the rest of his life. Asser's words are haunting. From that day to this, he has been plagued continually with the savage attacks of some unknown disease, such that he does not have even a single hour of peace. Imagine ruling a kingdom with unending cramps, diarrhea, fever, and exhaustion. Imagine negotiating treaties while doubled over in pain. Imagine leading armies into battle while fearing you might collapse before the enemy even struck. This was Alfred's daily existence. His illness was not an occasional visitor. It was a constant companion, gnawing at his insides, robbing him of sleep, sapping his strength. And yet, he never let it stop him. Historians and doctors have long tried to identify Alfred's condition. The most likely answer? Crohn's disease, a chronic inflammation of the digestive tract. It causes constant abdominal pain, diarrhea, bleeding, and eventually, in severe cases, the decay of intestinal tissue. Without modern medicine, Crohn's could be a death sentence. Over years, the bowels can perforate, infection can spread through the body, and sepsis can set in. In Alfred's time, it was a slow, agonizing spiral with no hope of cure. Others have proposed alternative diagnoses, ulcerative colitis, chronic infections, or even severe intestinal parasites. But Crohn's remains the leading theory. And if true, it means Alfred fought not only Vikings, but his own disintegrating body. Alfred became king in 871, at just 21 years old. His reign began in chaos. Wessex was the last Anglo-Saxon kingdom standing against the Vikings. While others might have surrendered or fled, Alfred reorganized the military, built a network of fortified towns, and developed a navy to challenge the Norse on water. His leadership turned the tide, leading to the decisive victory at Edington in 878. But think of what this meant for him personally. Every military council, every march, every sword raised in battle, done under the shadow of stabbing gut pain, unpredictable fever, and weakness. His people saw a warrior king. His enemies saw a fierce strategist. Few saw the man silently fighting to keep his body from betraying him. One of the most famous legends about Alfred tells of a time when he was hiding from the Vikings in the marshes. He stayed in a peasant woman's hut, where she asked him to watch her bread baking. Lost in thought, perhaps in pain, he let the bread burn. She scolded him, not knowing she was speaking to the king himself. The story is often told as a lesson in humility, but perhaps there was more to it. Perhaps Alfred's distraction was not only from planning battles, but from enduring the twisting knife of his illness. Alfred tried every remedy available to him: prayers, holy relics, herbal concoctions from Anglo-Saxon medical texts like Bald's Leech Book. One story tells of him receiving a white stone from the Patriarch of Jerusalem, believed to protect from illness and lightning. He carried it faithfully. Whether it brought comfort or not, the pain remained. In a world without understanding of autoimmune disease, each attack must have seemed like a test from God. Each day survived was a victory of the soul over the flesh. By the late 890s, Alfred's health was in steep decline. The disease had worn his body thin. Some accounts suggest he may have developed fistulas, tunnels of infection between the intestines and skin, or even internal perforations. Yet even in these final years, he continued to work. He translated Latin texts into Old English, promoted education, reformed the legal system, and maintained the network of defenses that kept Wessex safe. He died on October 26, 899, aged around 50 or 51. The exact cause? Likely complications from his disease, internal infection, sepsis, or intestinal failure. Alfred's body was buried in the Old Minster at Winchester, later moved to the New Minster, and eventually to Hyde Abbey. But during the 16th century dissolution of the monasteries, his grave was lost. Archaeologists have searched for his remains for decades. Fragments of bone have been found, but none conclusively proven to be Alfred's. Even in death, the king remains elusive, his body hidden, his story still unfolding. Alfred's life is often remembered for his military victories, his reforms, and his vision of a united England. But behind it all was a daily battle against his own body. He endured relentless, humiliating, and at times crippling pain. And yet he built schools, codified laws, strengthened defenses, and inspired a nation. His suffering did not diminish his greatness, it deepened it. History calls him the Great for his victories. But perhaps the truest measure of his greatness was not the battles he fought against men, but the one he fought within himself every single day. Alfred the Great, warrior, scholar, king, and a man whose endurance outshone even his crown.